What's up YouTube? I am back today with a new video, and this one is going to be reflecting on my last term at Dartmouth. So just to preface everything, Dartmouth is on the quarter system, which means there's a quarter of class for every season. Basically there's fall, winter, spring, summer quarter, and whatever, and most people take summer quarter off unless they're sophomores, in which case they all have to stay on campus, but that's beside the point. Point is, I just finished my winter quarter of my freshman year, and I have learned a lot. In winter term, I went through my first New England winter. Nonetheless, I struggled a lot. As you may have seen from like a few videos ago, I was in the Philippines, and when I got back to the US, I got super sick. So just the whole dilemma with that was that I came into winter term sputtering out the gate, and once I got back to my dorm, basically knocked out and was just sick for the next few days, got better, then got sick again, and there was just this whole cycle throughout the entirety of winter term where I was adjusting to the climate, and I was just being sick and then being healthy for 2 days, trying to catch up during those 2 days, and then getting sick again and getting super behind again. So overall, I just struggled a lot with health, anxiety because of my bad health, and trying to catch up and not really catching up. So overall, this term has been pretty trash. Nonetheless, I did do some new things this term that I'm really happy about. I took an engineering sciences class, which is design thinking, which didn't really need much mathematical background or anything, which is something that kind of like threw me for a loop, because I realized that like some parts of engineering aren't necessarily like, I don't know, math heavy. A lot are about like the thought process between things, so that was super cool to have. I started listening to podcasts more, because on the walk all the way to the engineering building from my building, it would be 15 minutes. And when it's snowing and it's super cold and your ears are starting to like get red from how cold it is, you gotta find ways to like divert your attention. And someone recommended like listening to podcasts, so I've gotten really into those. I also joined Club Taekwondo, which is something new for me. I've done Taekwondo for pretty much most of my life, and kind of fell off of it for the last few years of high school, so that was kind of unfortunate. And after fall term, when like everyone else was joining club sports and things that they were good at, I started to miss that environment again. So I joined Club Taekwondo, and I have loved it so far. In winter term, I also tried a few more social spaces that I generally stayed away from in fall term. Like in fall term, for example, the Greek system was kind of like, for me. Considering that like I was a freshman in my fall term, I felt there was a weird stigma around that. But in winter term, I felt a little bit more like apt to trying those spaces more, and I so far have enjoyed taking advantage of those social spaces on campus, and I'm glad that I tried that. Another new thing I did was to make videos for things that weren't my YouTube channel. So I joined Dartmouth Comedy Network. They're a new club that does sketch comedy on campus, and I edited one of their videos, and I'd like to get more involved in future weeks and terms. So super excited for that, and it was a nice introduction into things that were not YouTube. I also finally found the study spaces that worked for me. I struggled a lot with that fall term because I really liked my building, and I love hanging out in my building and hanging out with people in our common room, but I can never really get that much studying down there. So I found my two favorite study spaces on campus, which are One Wheelock, which is like this coffee shop vibe where they have like free coffee in the basement of our student center, and also the lobby of the Hood Museum of Art, which has this really open, airy vibe, and it's always super quiet because not that many people study there, but please don't study there because it's my space and I love it. Going into winter term, it was quite a different experience for me as compared to fall term, because first of all, I had friends and wasn't really worried about the social aspect of my campus life as much, and I learned from, I hope, some of my mistakes in fall term and made improvements upon that. I cleaned my desk. My room is not as cramped as it was at the beginning of fall term, so this is just like all of this. I was starting like 5 steps ahead of where I was in the beginning of fall term. But nonetheless, I did still struggle with some things in winter term. One was also just like, while I did have friends going into winter term, I started to struggle a little bit with not having a central friend group and realizing that that was okay. In winter term, I had a really weird spaced out schedule, so I had like a lot of liberty with when I wanted to like get food and everything, and I started to like struggle with like finding times to interact with people outside of food. Like, this is something that I realized from high school too, that a lot of my friends from high school weren't real friends, they were friends out of convenience. And I kind of struggled with that at the beginning of the term, but as the term wore on, I learned to like do things like eat alone and be happy with that and take that time to myself, because I'm literally everywhere on campus sometimes. A lot of my friends are through my interests and therefore are in different parts of campus. Because since I'm everywhere on campus, I'm never in the same place for long enough to like really develop a centralized friend group within those spaces. I have a lot of good one-on-one connections with people that I was really like satisfied with at the end of the term, because that's just my personality. I can't really help it, and therefore I should be content with it. One thing I struggled with was coming back from bad health and taking care of myself, because when you're sick, the most important thing you should be focusing on is getting better. And there were a lot of times where I was probably at like 70% of my health and forced myself to like do something that I could have said no to. And what that resulted in was just me staying sick for a longer period of time. And also, my design thinking class taught me a lot about managing how to balance classes and group projects with my extracurricular commitments, and to be upfront about that a lot more. I really struggled with that because I always felt like I wasn't contributing enough because I was either sick or like I was doing, or I had commitments that I couldn't like give up. And I think if I were more upfront about that from the get-go with all these projects, I would have been able to contribute more and manage my workload a lot better for myself. So going into spring term, I am going to take a few resolutions into it because, you know, new year, new me, even though it's late March. The first thing is to exercise a lot more rather than just twice all term, because it's really important to exercise to manage mental health. I'm going to talk about anxiety personally because it's affected me the most, but those who exercise generally have lower levels of anxiety, and I think it's partially because of you're just getting into a routine. And in general, like, now that I think about it, the times in my life when I didn't deal with mental health issues as much were the times when I was doing organized sports constantly. Another thing is organization. I need to realize that I can't overschedule my life anymore, and it's not sustainable. In winter term, what happened with my schedule was I had a 9 a.m. class, a 1 p.m. class, and then on Tuesday, Thursdays, I had a 2 to 4 p.m. class. So I had a really spread out schedule, and what happened with that is that rather than taking the time in between classes to work or anything like that, I was worried more about how little time I was going to have in between the things that I needed to do. So what I realized works better for me is to group all of my classes together and just have the rest of my day to just grind out things and spend a lot more time with that. So there were also times in winter term where I scheduled commitments, group projects, and classes back to back to back, and it went from like me at 12 p.m. thinking, oh my god, this is the rest of my day. I am busy from 12 to 10 p.m. and that's not good. And lastly, I want to be on top of things rather than struggling to catch up. Last term, I was never caught up on any of my work, and this term I'm starting fresh, starting new, and I have the chance to start off on the right foot and like be ahead of things for once. Oh, and lastly, I want to make more videos. I didn't make any of these videos all of last term. In all my videos this term, I'd been sick, and just dedicating a little bit more time to like things I'm passionate about would be awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video, and thanks for watching this reflection. Peace.